Good evening, and thanks for coming to this, I think, interesting talk. My name is Alvaro, and I work at Factorial.io. And the topic of this talk is about dyslexia and how it feels to be a dyslexic people in a world where everything is written. Just hands up who have at least a rough idea about what dyslexia is. Who has a rough idea? Okay, so a lot of you. I'm gonna briefly explain what dyslexia is. Dyslexia is just a learning disorder. It's not only about reading; it's also about how the people with dyslexia process information. So anybody in the room know that or have or they believe they have dyslexia? This hands up. Okay, about 7% of the people has suffered dyslexia in a mild or a severe grade. So it's not so uncommon. And for you to make an idea, people who don't suffer dyslexia, when you read a text, is something like this. Not because the letters change, it's because it's more difficult to read. Imagine your daily life with text like this. This is how most of us live every day. When we have to read documentation, when we have to write a colleague in chat, this is just more difficult. And this is an exercise to answer the question of the talk: how it feels to be a dyslexic person in a world dominated by written communication. Is something like your world is this every day. And of course, no drama. That is. And this is the card we have to play. And we play as many people. Good. First, I'd like to talk about some myths about people with dyslexia. And are just myths. For example, people with dyslexia are less intelligent than average. And on my eyes, many problems begin at school because we have problems reading. And during the school, everything is about reading, writing. When you have to study, you have to read what you have to study. And there's a problem in the input, not inside your brain. And even people believe they are less intelligent than the others because they feel less intelligent than the others. And they become self-conscious, and this is what they project to the rest of the people. But it's not only about reading, it's about how our brain processes the information, also the sequences of elements. I'm not ashamed to admit that I still have problems with the months of the year. I switch the months of the year. Of course, I know them, but when I have to say all the months of the year, sometimes I make mistakes. I practice karate, and when I'm doing katas, I can do the katas, but I cannot enumerate all the movements of the kata if I have to write them or just say all the movements. If I start doing it, my body can do any kata I can do, but I cannot do a bullet point with all the movements. So it's not only about reading, it's about how our brain processes all the information. And of course, it's more notorious when you are reading because it's super obvious. Another myth is people with dyslexia are more intelligent than the average. It's the completely opposite myth. On my eyes, we have some examples of people that are claimed to be dyslexic, like Albert Einstein or even Leonardo da Vinci. Just as an example that we can do anything. I'm not completely sure because Leonardo da Vinci was born really long time ago and there was no studies about dyslexia. Yeah, so I don't think this is actually a fact, but I think it's the result of the twice exceptional people with high IQ, because it's super common when someone is more intelligent than average to suffer HDAD or any other twice exceptionality, and one of the exceptionalities could be dyslexia. Also, some facts about dyslexic people. I'm gonna pass a bit faster over this slide because I'm gonna explain a bit deeper. We need to keep in mind that it's not a binary condition. I mean, you are not dyslexic or completely dyslexic. You can have some degree of issues when you are reading or when you are processing information. Also, we need to know that dyslexia has a high genetic component. So it's normal. People with dyslexia has kids with dyslexia, or at least could have more probabilities to have kids with dyslexia. Of course, we develop our strategies to compensate the condition. So we can survive, we can do anything because we develop strategies. At the end of the day, it's not a great issue. And with these strategies, we can develop successful careers, and also at the high school, and at the university, I had a brilliant degree. So I think it's not an issue, but you need to know and you need to adapt. It's not a binary condition. This graph. I really like it. There are a lot of papers about dyslexia, but this is from my point of view, this is super clear. They did a study with a lot of cases. You can see every point here, every dot is a person with problems reading, writing, or doing expression, and people with dyslexia are people in this sector here, the one checked with the arrow. There's a simplified representation of this sector on the right, and what we can see here is there is dyslexia is not only dyslexia and that's all. You can have a mild case, a moderate severe case, or a severe case. So the more on the right you are, the more severe, there are less cases. So there are not a lot of people with a really severe dyslexia. But on my eyes, the most dangerous zone is the medium one, because you have actual problems struggling with reading and processing information, but sometimes you are not diagnosed, and this is super dangerous. In my case, I'm quite on the right side of the only in the graph, please don't get me wrong. I'm quite in the right side, and I was super lucky because I was diagnosed at the end of 10. So I had serious behavioral issues at school. I couldn't read, and my teachers couldn't give up. They said, hey, this boy cannot stay here. He needs to go to another school for people with other kind of necessities. He needs to go to other place. He's not. He shouldn't be here. And they needed a test because a few years before the law changed, and they needed a test to accept I was not normal. I was just under the average, so I couldn't follow a normal class. And the surprise was some of the tests were much higher than the average. Everything that was unrelated to reading was much higher than the average. So it was something strange there. So they find my problem. That my only problem was dyslexia. So I was not with less intelligent than the average. Just had problems reading, and thanks to that, now I'm here. But I cannot imagine how many small kids didn't have that opportunity like I had. So yeah, so I'm super grateful for that, and that's one of the reasons why I want to somehow spread the word and talk about this, because we need to, if we have kids, we need to be aware of these kind of things. And it's one of the reasons. I have two kids. Both of them are neurodivergent in some way. My daughter, my daughter have been diagnosed with dyslexia. Yeah, I know she is brave enough, strong enough, and she will have a really good Thanks. Sorry. Yeah. So, I'm going to skip this slide. Sorry. And we develop strategies to compensate our condition. And you can see this is a bit exhausting. For example, we use the context to guess what's the most probable word. So these things that our cell phone does when we are writing text message to guess what's next, our brain is doing that constantly. Also, we tend to divide the text in small pieces. Even we sometimes, at least myself, I copy and paste the text and put some returns at the end of every dot to have everything separated in small pieces, just for have a point where I can stop and have a small rest. Also, we read much slower than the average because this is exhausting and we need sometimes to read things twice, 3 times. And at the end of every sentence, we have to wonder, hey, does it make any sense what I have just read or not? Because sometimes things doesn't make any sense, and it's because we switch a word and we didn't read correctly what was happening. But not everything have downsides. I mean, a brain that works differently usually finds different solutions. Also, all this big effort we have to do in our daily life develop a great resilience and grit. Some of us are somehow good in sports because we have learned to don't give up. And this is a great exercise to work out, a great workout to the daily life, your daily routine. And when things are getting complicated, we are living in a complicated world from the very beginning. Also, we tend to develop a very strong visual thinking because the written thinking is not so good, so we need to think some way. So we are doing schemas, very often we are drawing our problems in order to find solutions better than writing. Also, this exercise of guessing what's the word, getting everything by the context, helps you to focus in the big picture. So I think all these points, sorry for not mentioning, are on this book based on a lot of papers. So there's a lot of papers about this. Also, we have the habit of focusing the big picture because this is our daily life. When we are reading, we always keep in mind the whole context in order to don't make, or at least make the less mistakes as possible. So, yeah. And also, for many reasons, we usually have a great performance under pressure because we are pressure all the time. So, more pressure, no problem. And last but not least, some advices if you want to make our life a bit easier. Because, as I said, about 7% of the people has some dyslexia issue. So, and I think this is helpful for most of the people. The use of TLDR, too long didn't read, at the beginning of a big test is really helpful. Not because we are gonna skip the whole text, it's because that gives us a lot of context. So it's really helpful when you are reading the long test to already know what you are reading. So if something is completely out of the context, you are getting things wrongly. Also, don't use a big portion of text. So use the dots, sentences, paragraphs. This is super helpful. Sometimes when people is really good at writing, usually elaborate a lot the sentences, which is good if you are trying to win a literature award, but not communication, especially when people reading have problems reading. Also, this long text, empty of meaning, because sometimes when you need to write a document, you want a 500-page document. Man, why? If you can say that in 2 sentences, please say that in 2 sentences. Don't use 2 pages for that. Also, highlighting keywords, using bold, using upcases, these kind of things is super helpful for us because we know this word is important, so we can read twice or 3 times the number of times we have to read, but we know that's important and for the context. And the rest of the thing, maybe, we read a bit more quick, but we know the most important things are there. Also, explaining using screenshots, charts, tables, or visual representations is super helpful for us. When I see a screenshot on a ticket or an issue, I feel safe because I know what's happening. But if everything is explained super well detailed, it's more difficult for me. But I have a screenshot with an arrow. Hey, this is where it's happening, and this is what's happening. Perfect. I go quick. Also, I'm sorry, we make typos a lot. We don't read a lot. Sometimes when we read, we don't exactly remember the word we read, how it was written, everything. And we make a lot of typos. I'm sorry with that, but please accept and don't get mad with that. And also, when someone asks you a short meeting for an explanation, maybe that person needs a 2 minutes meeting for a short explanation about documentation page. Of course, the wiki page could be perfectly detailed, explained, but probably if you have a short meeting with that person feels safe reading then the documentation and understanding that at least the most important things are clear. And we have 3 minutes left for questions.
Thanks. I noticed that you use sans serif fonts. What do you think of specific fonts for this? Like called dyslexic or so?
Yeah. Thanks for the question. I forgot to put in this list. There are fonts that are much better for people with problems reading, like dyslexia and even others. There is even a font called Dyslexic or Dyslexia, something like that, that it's super clear. And people that use these fonts, for example, in a restaurant, some people get creative with the fonts, and it's a problem. Of course, at the end you read and then you understand what you are reading, but it's more work, and that's what we have. But thanks for the question. You are totally right. Using the right fonts with no serif, with good spacing between words and between letters helps a lot. Thanks.
And it helps everybody.
Yeah.
A strategy that I'll often use is to enable the screen reader on my computer. And so if I'm reading long text, in order to not lose track of what I'm reading, if I can hear it at the same time as I'm reading, I do much better. And also, in the days now of ChatGPT, if I can get a summary from something like ChatGPT or Claude or Olama or something like that, that helps a ton as well. Just like you were talking about the TLDR, it's almost like you can get that even if somebody hasn't provided it for you, and it's super helpful.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Hi, good talk by the way. I have same thing, I have dyslexia. I have a great team that supports me with it because we have a team with 7 people and 4 of them have dyslexia. So most of the time we couldn't even see each other's faults. I was wondering, because I'm at a point where I want to learn more, but I'm a bit of a struggle with the reading thing. How are you learning without torturing yourself with reading? Like, I would like to read pages on websites and get to know more, but it's sometimes too hard to keep the focus on the texts because it's a lot to learn about with just texts. So I was wondering how you are studying with a lot of texts.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know any source in English. In Spanish, yes, some neuropsychologists, and yeah, but to be honest, in English, I don't have any reference, but I can seek. I remember one website, but I don't remember the name, but I can find it. I published my slides on X this afternoon or this evening, and also I'll add a link because I remember one resource where I got this idea about this lettering that we're changing, and I'll add that because there was a lot of information, but you already know a lot because you are this is your daily life. Yeah. And honestly, I decided to do this talk because of my daughter, but there are a lot of people living with dyslexia, and we don't talk enough about that, and it's not a problem. Tomorrow there is a keynote about the power of neurodivergency that is related with the slide I post. Surely will be more information there. I'll be there, of course, and I encourage all of you to be there because I think we don't talk enough about brains that work differently and find different solutions for things. So to answer your question, I'll try to post something on X, but if someone has any idea, any resource, please reply at your resources, or maybe you can add now.
Thanks for the nice talk. I also have dyslexia, and what really helps me is audiobooks, because I love to learn that reading is harsh. So even with audiobooks, sometimes I get carried away in my own thoughts, and then what helped me is to speed up the audiobooks. So I remain focused, and that really helped me a lot.
Yeah. Thanks for your point.
I can add something to what you said. I posted, so there is a subreddit for dyslexia, and I noticed this when I am watching something on 2x or like high speed, I'm able to grab more, and I don't zone out in that. And it seems like a common pattern because you are filling the gaps and you have the context for a shorter period of time. So if you do faster tutorials, that helps too.
Okay, let's continue the conversation outside because we are already over time. Thank you very much for your time, and see you around.